Have you ever stopped and thought about this? If God created the universe, then who or what created God? For as long as humanity has gazed at the stars, we've yearned to know where it all began. We've built gods from fire, worshipped the sun, and created sacred images, often telling ourselves that we've discovered the truth. But here's the catch. Most religious traditions assume God exists without needing an explanation. God simply is, eternal, untouched, without beginning or end. For thousands of years, we've been told not to question it, not to even think about it. But today, let's ask that question. Let's dare to break down the walls of certainty and examine the cracks in this foundation. The moment we ask, who created God? Something fascinating happens. The question challenges the very logic we use to understand creation itself. If everything in existence must have a cause, as many religions claim, why should God be the exception? Is it because we're afraid of the alternative? Afraid that maybe, just maybe, there's no final answer waiting for us? No neat conclusion at the end of this endless rabbit hole? Let's take this deeper. Imagine the universe as a grand domino effect. Cause leads to effect. One thing leads to another. And eventually, it all traces back to a beginning. Theists argue that the first domino, the original cause, must be God. It sounds perfect, doesn't it? But why stop there? Why not ask, what came before God? Saying God is eternal feels like cheating the system. It's like a magician pulling a rabbit out of a hat and expecting us not to ask, where did the rabbit come from? But this isn't just about challenging ancient beliefs. It's about confronting the enormity of existence itself. Let's turn to science for a moment. Science tells us the universe had a beginning, the Big Bang. Before that moment, there was nothing, no time, no space, no matter, literally nothing. And yet, something emerged, a spark, a singularity that birthed everything. But does that mean the universe needs a creator? Or could the universe itself be eternal in some way we can't yet comprehend? Here's where it gets really interesting. Some physicists argue that our universe could have appeared without any divine intervention at all. In fact, quantum mechanics suggests that particles can appear and disappear spontaneously, without any cause. If particles can do this, why not an entire universe? And if a universe can spring into existence without a creator, what does that mean for the idea of God? But let's be clear. I'm not here to tell you that science is right and religion is wrong. This isn't about mocking faith or dismissing the comfort it offers. It's about curiosity. It's about refusing to settle for easy answers. If we stop asking questions, if we stop challenging what we know, then we might as well stop thinking altogether. So, here's what we're going to do in the next few minutes. We're going to dive into the origins of God, not to dismantle anyone's beliefs, but to uncover the assumptions, the ancient traditions, and the groundbreaking ideas that have shaped this question. We'll pull from history, philosophy, science, and the great debates of our time. Let's step back into the ancient world, where humans first tried to make sense of the unexplainable. In the oldest scriptures of humanity, the idea of God begins to take shape, not as a discovery, but as a declaration. The divine wasn't something found, it was something defined. Those definitions were carved into stone tablets and whispered across generations. In the Bible, the story begins with a bold proclamation. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. No prelude, no backstory, no origin. God is presented as the ultimate authority, the creator of everything, what is, what was, and what will ever be. But here's the fascinating part. It doesn't ask, where did God come from? It doesn't ask, why does God exist? Instead, it insists that God is eternal, a being from everlasting to everlasting. It's like walking into a movie halfway through and being told not to ask about the first half. The Quran takes a similar approach. God is described as absolute, indivisible, and uncreated. The Quran doesn't entertain the possibility of a creator for God because, in its framework, God is the essence of existence itself. He is not bound by time, space, or causality. To question his origin is to misunderstand his nature. It's a satisfying answer, but only if you accept the premise. Now let's turn to the ancient Hindu texts. Here, God isn't a single defined entity. Instead, there is Brahman, the infinite, formless, eternal reality that underlies all existence. Brahman isn't a creator in the traditional sense. It is the very fabric of being itself. Time, space, and causality are illusions within Brahman's infinite scope. It's a brilliant solution, but one that raises even more questions about the nature of reality. The Greeks offered a completely different perspective. They didn't start with a single creator God. Instead, they told stories of chaotic forces, Gaia, Uranus, and Kronos, that gave rise to the cosmos. Plato and Aristotle, however, tried to bring order to these myths with philosophy. Plato spoke of a craftsman, the demiurge, who shaped the universe from pre-existing chaos. Aristotle introduced the idea of the prime mover, an unchanging eternal force that set the universe into motion. But none of these ideas fully explained the origin of the divine force itself. Still, they pushed the narrative beyond mythology. What's common among all of these traditions? They sidestep the problem of infinite regress. None of them really delve into what came before the divine, and for good reason. To explain God's origins opens a can of logical worms that ancient societies weren't equipped or willing to handle. Instead, they chose to frame God as the beginning of everything, the ultimate anchor in a chaotic universe. These scriptures weren't written in a vacuum. They emerged in societies struggling with survival, power, and meaning. The gods described weren't just abstract concepts. They were tools. They justified kingdoms, enforced laws, and provided comfort in the face of the unknown. When the Bible claims God is eternal, or when the Quran asserts that God transcends causality, it's not just theology. It's a statement of authority. The real story here isn't about God's supposed eternity. It's about humanity's need to stop the chain of questions somewhere. Ancient scriptures gave us that stopping point, an eternal divine figure beyond scrutiny. But as we explore these texts today, we see the deliberate choices made by their authors. The question of who created God wasn't avoided because it was unimportant. It was avoided because it was too dangerous, too destabilizing. Aristotle began the conversation with what he called the prime mover. He looked at the universe and saw motion everywhere, planets orbiting, rivers flowing, people living, and reasoned that all motion must have a starting point. Something had to move first to set everything else in motion. That first, unmoved mover, he claimed, was God. But Aristotle wasn't talking about a personal God with feelings or a plan for humanity. His prime mover wasn't a deity to worship. It was a logical necessity. Fast forward to Thomas Aquinas. He took Aristotle's idea and molded it into something religious. In his famous 5 Ways, Aquinas argued that everything in the universe has a cause. If you follow the chain of causes far enough, you eventually reach something uncaused God. But here's the catch. Aquinas didn't explain why God gets to break the rules. Why can God exist without a cause when nothing else can? Then came David Hume, the rebel of the Enlightenment. Hume didn't just question religion. He questioned the very foundations of logic itself. He argued that causality, the idea that everything must have a cause, wasn't a law of the universe. It was a human concept. What if the universe doesn't need a cause at all? Hume wasn't saying that God didn't exist. He was saying that arguments for God's existence were based on assumptions, not facts. Nietzsche, on the other hand, declared, God is dead. He didn't think God was an eternal being. He believed God was an idea, a construct humans created to explain a chaotic world. As science and philosophy began to unravel the mysteries of existence, Nietzsche felt the idea of God started to crumble. His declaration wasn't a celebration, but a warning. Without God, humanity would face an existential crisis, a void of meaning that needed to be filled. These philosophers weren't just debating God's existence, they were challenging the framework of how we think about reality. Aristotle forced us to confront the origins of motion. Aquinas dared us to imagine a being beyond causality. Hume shattered our trust in causality itself, and Nietzsche made us question the very idea of God. But here's the mind-bending part. Even as these great minds struggled with these concepts, they were all wrestling with the same core issue: infinity, infinite motion, infinite causality, infinite regress. Our minds aren't built to handle it. Infinity feels unnatural, yet the moment we try to resolve it by invoking God or the universe itself, we end up right back at infinity's doorstep. The ultimate paradox. The deeper we go into this question, the more we realize this isn't just a theological or philosophical problem. It's a human problem, a reflection of our need for answers in an unpredictable universe. Whether you see God as a being, a principle, or an illusion, the question of His origins reveals our fundamental need to impose order on a reality that might just be chaotic. In the end, we may never have a clear answer to the question of who created God or whether it even matters. What we do know is that this question will continue to push us to explore the deepest mysteries of existence for as long as we exist. Thank you for taking this journey with me today. Your curiosity is what makes these conversations so valuable. If this video helped you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell to keep exploring more inspiring Bible stories. God bless you, and see you in the next video.